Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Here we are with NFA Live. We have Rob from Digital Asset News. How's it going, Rob?
Great. Glad to be here.
Happy to have you here. And as always, Guy from Coin Bureau. How's it going, Guy?
Great, thanks, Ben. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so first comment I see is that thumbnail shows how much crypto ages you in a short period of time. I guess that's true. We've all aged, especially me in the last couple of years. So we do this show every week, Thursday, and this week it's on my channel. Next week it'll be on Rob's. Week after that it'll be on Guy's. So make sure you subscribe to their channels. Link in the description below to make sure you catch those. It's good to see everyone this morning. And I guess it's a reminder that it's not morning for everyone. Like for Guy, it is more likely the afternoon.
It's early evening.
Yeah, early evening. There you have it. So we have a few questions to go through. We're going to go through the metals. We're going to go through crypto. We might even pick Rob's brain about some real estate based on some comments that our good friend Jay Powell had to say. But the first thing I want to ask is what's going on with Metal Mania? Because, you know, I wake up every day, I check the prices of metals, and they just seem like they're always higher. So, Guy, what do you think's going on there? I mean, I'm getting pretty euphoric, and so like I'm trying to catch myself and be like, all right, if I'm getting euphoric, what is that? You know, does that mean we're getting closer to the end of this rally? What are you seeing here in the metalverse, heavy metalverse?
The heavy metalverse. Yes, we're renaming the channels and the show. Yeah, I mean, I think this seems to be stemming from the sort of wider geopolitical picture, and I guess it's tempting to say, well, you can pin that on Trump and the fact that he's very unpredictable and what have you. And I think that's true to an extent. But I think also this is perhaps you can point to this as the kind of acceleration of a process that has been going on for a good few years now. And that is a sort of wider move away from the US dollar. And okay, Trump is a big part of that, I think, especially with some of the things that he's said and done recently. But he's not solely responsible for that. And of course, that plays out most noticeably, I suppose, in gold. You've got central banks have been some of the the big gold buyers recently, or they were it was their buying that I think has sort of accelerated this rally. And of course, everyone is kind of following their lead now. And China, especially, the People's Bank of China has been a huge buyer of gold, as have many other central banks. And obviously, that is part of there are questions of sovereignty in there, but it comes down to having a sovereign asset that isn't controlled and held by another power. And I think I don't think it's any coincidence that we're seeing the dollar lose strength recently. The DXY, I think, is now at its lowest, or just has been at its lowest in about 4 years. And so, yeah, I mean, the narrative is pretty strong for that. Gold, if you like, kind of, I think when it comes to metals and when it comes to obviously precious metals in particular, gold is the Bitcoin, if you like. Everything else kind of follows that. So the gold story has been fairly straightforward and understandable. Central banks are hedging against the dollar, trying to move away from dependence on the dollar. That there's a domino effect as other central banks do that, and then kind of institutional and retail investors pick up on that. And of course, momentum is really important here. As soon as once the metals trade really got moving, then it just picked up steam. And I guess the world is becoming more uncertain. And you only need to look at events over the last month. It just in 2026, I think the world is more uncertain than it was in 2025, which wasn't all that long ago. We went from stuff happening in Venezuela to questions over Greenland. Now there's questions over Iran, and that is putting aside all the other sort of bubbling tensions in, for instance, places like North Korea. That's just putting them aside. So these are just the things that are top of mind at the moment. And I guess in situations like that, people want to hold an asset in the form of gold that has 5,000 years of history behind it. So yeah, I think things are taking their lead from gold. Obviously, silver we can talk about as well. And I think we have there's also industrial uses for that. But I think what this boils down to is geopolitical uncertainty. Gold leads the way, and then other countries are trying to gain more control over their supply chains as the world becomes more polarized. And they want to get hold of metals which are raw materials. So I think the trade probably, as long as the uncertainty continues, as long as we continue to move into a more polarized world, I think that the demand for metals will probably stay fairly high.
Sorry, I was muted. I had to find the unmute button. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think silver just hit 120 actually. It's a crazy move. I was looking at you guys remember those people like a few cycles ago or last cycle be like now that Bitcoin's at 35,000, I'm gonna sell it here at 36,000, and the next minute it's like 37. I've seen people do that with gold now. Like yesterday it was like gold hits 5,400, and now that it's at 5,500, should I sell it at 56? It's just it's moving so quickly that I feel like every generation gets to experience maybe like 2 really massive rallies in metals, and I feel like this is one of them. And maybe the next one that happens will be when I'm like 60 or something. But it's been crazy. Rob, what do you think's going on here with metals?
Well, just like what Guy said, pretty much all those things together. And to me, it always comes down to S&M, speculation and momentum. That's what it comes down to. I know Guy was thinking pretty hard, like, wait. But yeah, speculation, it's speculation and momentum, and things are moving in the way that they're supposed to move. But first of all, I will say that, congratulations to all the gold bugs, gold and silver. You guys deserve it. I mean, how long have they been talking about this is going to move, this is going to change? When everything collapses, it's going to be gold and silver. And it was the crypto people, it was institutions, it was hedge funds. They're like, yeah, it's a nice hedge, but we'll just leave it to the backside. And now it comes full case. And I mean, if you think, I was reading a post on investing or investing.com, and it talked about how that right now we're currently entering the 6th consecutive year of a structural silver deficit. Between like the last 4 or 5 years, the world has overconsumed 900 million ounces of silver than it produced. And Guy was going to touch on it, but I mean, I'll lead off, which is the reason that silver is doing so well is now that we have not just the uncertainty that's going on, but we also have to take into account what is it actually being used for. Solar panels are huge, like everybody's been talking about. We have a massive electricity problem. We have a massive deficit. Artificial intelligence, we need to do 20x what we're doing right now. Data centers, we're going to need all those chips for AI, and then connectors and power distribution. So like you put all those things together, I get silver. And gold in some way, I mean, I know it's that hedge and it's moving in the right direction. I don't think it's going to stop. I mean, I think it just put in, correct me if I'm wrong here, 3 or 3.5 trillion in market cap in like 48 hours for gold. And you take a look at that. Yeah, and so you take a look at that and you go, that's great. Fantastic news for the gold bugs. If it keeps going up and all the uncertainty, sure. But you would think that at some point, when people are going to take those profits, what are they going to put it into? Like we just talked about before we got on here. You're going to put in the dollar and how weak it goes? You're going to leave it in gold and silver? Or do you think like this is the top, whatever else, and maybe is it going to go into something else? I can't say it because it's cliche to say, oh, it'll just rotate in. But it is an interesting times. And again, congratulations to all the gold bucks and silver.
Yeah.
That's
really interesting, that comment. I'm a metals dealer and never thought I'd see silver do what it's doing. So this is something that's catching even the metals experts offside. Right.
Yeah, and like I was talking before, like my brother who's been in silver for like 10 years, I said, hey, you should probably take some profits on 100. Then it goes to 120. He's like, no. He goes, from the people I talk to, I'm not taking profits till it's over. They said wait until 200. I'm like, okay. And wouldn't that be amazing?
Did you ever ask your brother? Has your brother ever said what his thesis, his original thesis for investing in silver was? Was he sort of seeing these industrial uses?
It wasn't industrial uses so much as it was the same type of thesis that we go through. The dollar just keeps getting printed. Dollar's getting debased. I have to get into silver. I would get into gold. I think it's overpriced. There's a ratio that the gold bugs use, 50 to 1, 40 to 1. And because of that, I'm going to go heavy into silver. And it worked out great for me. And now I get to hear it every damn day. So that's awesome.
I kind of feel like it's the same argument as for Bitcoin. It's just you want to own Bitcoin because of that argument during risk on times, and you want to hold metals because of that argument in risk off times.
It's not a bad way to diversify. That's for sure.
Yeah. Palladium's now above 2,100. I mean, it was just at $1,000 just like a few months ago.
That's crazy.
Even uranium. Uranium's not a monetary metal, but uranium is up 20% just in like the last few weeks. I mean, a lot of these metals, and silver is now at 121.
Yeah.
Since we started the stream, it hit 120 and then 121.
Yeah, and I think Guy, we talked about this last week, but watch out for copper, because if we're going to talk about AI and conduction electricity, you think that would do? Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
copper. I mean, it's basically like an asset class wide movement, right? Like it's not just the monetary metals. It's like a I think we've talked about this before, but it's essentially just a pivot away from like frothy stuff to like hard assets is essentially what it is. Like I think there's to some degree there's like a rejection of the frothiness that is developed, and people are like, you know what, we're tired of all this froth, we're tired of meme coins, we're tired of like scams. Let's just go buy something that we like is a real asset, that you can't just go create because you want to create it. You can't just go to your computer and like mint a few more tokens.
I wonder as well whether people have looked at things like Nvidia. Nvidia stock, obviously, these AI stocks and AI adjacent stocks going crazy, and sort of felt that they've missed the boat on that a bit, but been like, well, these chips, these data centers, as Rob was mentioning earlier, these things don't appear out of thin air. You need raw materials at the end of the day to build all this stuff. So I wonder whether it was people in part sort of going, well, we missed the boat on Bitcoin, we missed the boat on Nvidia. What's this gold stuff everyone keeps talking about? So maybe there's an element of that to it as well. It's just people see what's hot, and they try to second guess, they try to front run what's going to be hot next. And I guess that's why people are now talking about copper, or maybe it'll be zinc or nickel or whatever.
Yeah.
So I saw this comment. I just want to go on the record and say I wholeheartedly disagree with this comment.
Well, I mean, to buy alt is pretty risky, Like, if you were on gold,
I do think there will be another run in crypto, right? I just don't think that when gold tops, the people that have been in metals are then going to go pivot to altcoins.
Can you see a rotation from metals into Bitcoin?
I think Bitcoin is in a bear market. I mean, it depends. I mean, not in the short term. If the metal rally continues for many more months, which is kind of hard to believe, but I mean, who knows, right? Then maybe. I mean, I'm in the camp that Bitcoin's in a bear market, and normally the bear markets last about a year. So that's kind of my camp right now. I'm not really looking for Bitcoin to do anything interesting until at least the summer. Maybe not until Q4. Because if you think about it, and we've talked about this before, there's 1,000 different indicators. We've all talked about them. We've used them. But really, the one way to be successful with Bitcoin is just to buy it at the end of the midterm year and then sell it at the end of the post-halving year. If you did that the last 3 cycles, you basically would have outperformed everyone else. So maybe that's the right answer. Just ignore crypto until October, and maybe that's when to get back in. I don't know. But I certainly do not think that institutions are about to pivot away from metals into altcoins.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that
Ignore
whatever.
crypto, but keep watching NFA, especially
Right.
now that we're talking about metals.
Right. Well, this is just not financial advice.
This is non-Tariff advice, I think. Now.
Yeah, I mean, you're Coin Bureau, but I always thought Coin Bureau meant like Gold Coin Bureau, right?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. Gold,
Yeah.
silver, and copper coin bureau. Yeah.
Time to pivot, guys.
Right. Yeah. And Rob is digital asset news, but he that just refers to the ETFs that track the metals.
Well, it could be any asset. It could be an AI asset. Who knows? A digital AI asset.
Someone says NFA is, or no, that's not right. That's not NTA. Not therapeutic advice.
We could.
Well, it actually is a reality. It's not therapeutic. I mean, people go to the hopium channels for that. This is the reality channel, unfortunately.
Yeah, you don't come here to feel good about yourself.
Someone says silver is about 27% of the production cost of solar panels. I had no idea.
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah, and I guess, because China I think China has pretty much cornered the entire market on solar panels. I think if I remember rightly, Germany was at one point the powerhouse of solar panels, and then the Chinese just went, nah, we're doing this. So that's an interesting, that's an interesting thing about that market. That is purely concentrated in one country. So what does that mean? Will China think, well, okay, solar panels are getting too expensive now. Maybe we'll ramp it down a bit. Maybe we'll ramp production down a bit, or whatever. I think it does bear thinking about, certainly.
Someone wants to know what NFA means.
Well, we said now that we're metals, I think it's non-ferrous advice.
Non-ferrous.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a few more questions. I'm just kind of doing audience questions as we go through, rather than.
Let's do that. That's always good.
Yeah. So the next question is, why do you think Bitcoin is not participating in the metal rally? Is it because Bitcoin already had its bull market? I mean, if you think about it, Bitcoin did go up 8x. It's not like it hasn't done anything this cycle. But what do you guys think is the reason for that, Rob?
Like we talked about, it's you got to go with what's hot, and everybody's talking about, AI and metals, and so that's the big thing. Speculation and momentum. And we lost it on October 10th with everything that happened with Binance. I mean, when you liquidate, what was it, $20 billion or something around there, and then everything started to crash around the world for crypto, it's just like, that's going to do it again. So you have that problem, and then gold and silver start to take off. So I do find it odd, though, that we're still talking about super cycles and banana zones. And all it really is going to take is just, more printing of quantitative easing and business cycles. I just don't see it. I think people are tired, and they all want to just grow up and get some actual assets that actually work. And that can be gold, silver, copper, Bitcoin, and move from there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole like ALTseason, banana zones, I mean, it's just been, I feel like the sort of the predictions on when it happens just constantly gets delayed and delayed and delayed. And then the people that are essentially counting on it end up just watching the altcoins that they're holding just go to zero, basically. And I think people are getting tired of it, and they're moving over to assets that have real value. I do think long term, not now, but like long term, the fact that metals are going up and sort of the market cap of metals has increased so much, there will exist a time in the distant future where I'm gonna look at Bitcoin and be like, wow, look how small the market cap is with respect to gold. And then that's gonna be, I think, a really strong bull case for it. But I think we have to respect the cycle for now and say this is not Bitcoin's time, this is the metal time, and then maybe Bitcoin's time will come, next year or something. Someone says NFA stands for no freaking ALTseason.
That's not what we want, but I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a difference between what we want and what we think, right? I mean, Guy, what do you think about that question about why is Bitcoin not participating?
Yeah, I think there are a few reasons. I think going back to what Rob said about the 10th of October things, I mean, I want to pay lip service to the theory that's going around. I don't want to, necessarily say one way or another, but certainly acknowledge that there is a theory that a lot of people have that there's been systemic selling since that day, and I've heard some evidence that suggests it, and I've heard evidence that says to the contrary. But I think it's important to acknowledge that there could still be some effect coming from the 10th of October. So I think we can acknowledge that. But then I think there are other factors, plenty of other factors as well, why Bitcoin has struggled. We saw OGs selling out. I think that was a really important moment because these people who'd been there in some cases since almost the beginning. They were seeing, that they were selling, and I think a lot of people probably followed their lead. Gold, as we've talked about, gold has the narrative, and I think in terms of Bitcoin and crypto, it's important to point out now that it's very, very easy to move out of Bitcoin and into gold. You can just move into tokenized gold. You can move into PaxG, XAUT. There are others as well. So. That trade is not a difficult one for a lot of people to make. So I'm sure that has contributed to it as well. Then there are other things for Bitcoin. There's more and more talk, more and more concern over a possible quantum attack. As I've said before, I think this is probably still a long way away, but maybe closer than we might imagine, because we don't quite know how developed quantum computing is. I'm sure we don't know the whole story of that. And regardless, that narrative is enough to shake people's confidence. I don't think it's the overarching narrative. I don't think you've got most would-be Bitcoin investors going, "Oh, I'm not investing in Bitcoin because of quantum." But I don't think it's helping. I think that's contributing to it. And I think there are two other things to consider, and they're kind of related. One thing that is really important, I think, is people hate crypto. Like lots of people hate crypto with a passion, and I think they outnumber those of us who love it and those of us who are really into it. And it's unfortunate, and we could spend hours dissecting why that is. But lots of people hate crypto, and I think Bitcoin has its own kind of, its own kind of ecosystem, if you like. But now, given everything that's happened over the last year, over the last couple of years, really, I think in many people's minds, Bitcoin is associated, for better or for worse, with Trump and the MAGA movement, and that's fine. But for a lot of people, that is beyond the pale. So I think that could be hurting Bitcoin as well. Bitcoin is no longer, in the minds of many people, the politically neutral asset that it should be. And I think that's a real shame, because gold isn't political, silver isn't political, and Bitcoin shouldn't be either. But unfortunately, Bitcoin is. And I don't know how we get away from that. So I think if you factor in all those things that I've mentioned, I think that goes some way towards explaining why Bitcoin is struggling. But as you said, Ben, it's just like, respect the cycle. This is the momentum is with gold and metals. So maybe all these other things are just window dressing, extraneous, and we're overthinking it.
Yeah, I mean, no one can control the cycles, right? We're just silent participants, and you can choose to ride the trends, or you can choose to sulk and be mad that the thing the thing that you thought was going to go up isn't, right? For me, Bitcoin's a bear market. And you know what, Guy? I mean, even for myself, like, I feel like I used to like crypto a lot more back in like 2011, 2013, that time. Like, I thought it was cool back then. But then now, like, it's almost like I've become somewhat disenfranchised with the asset class, because I'm like, when I think about it, it's just so much like meme coin slop. And I put out a tweet about this the other day. It isn't what it used to be, right? It's presidents launching meme coins. It's people only caring about ETFs and strategic reserves. I'm like, what happened to all the changing the world, like all the development that was supposed to take place? I just think that people that used to like it now don't like it. And I think the reason they don't like it is because of like what it became over the last few years and what people focused on for the last few years. And you know, you do that long enough, people stop listening. You know, there's only so many times that people want to get rugged on a meme coin before they just go buy gold or go buy silver or go buy something else. So I think we need I think we need a sort of a cleanse. And you know, this person right here says, can 2026 be an up year for Bitcoin since 2025 was a down year? But technically, though, Bitcoin did put in an all-time high in Q4. I mean, it's not like the whole year was a bear market for Bitcoin. If you measure it against gold, it was. But if you measure it against the US dollar, it was not. So, I mean, I still think it'll be a down year. But there are some people that believe it'll be an up year for Bitcoin because they think that the bear market sort of got front run last year. And then this year will be different. But I guess I'm, surprise, surprise, a little bit more pessimistic.
That's not like you, Ben.
Yeah.
Not like me at all.
Benjamin.
The next question, what is your plan this year for investing? You know, I mean, how do you look at this and how do you figure out what you're going to do? What do you guys think, Guy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely paying more and more attention to metals. So, you know, I'm like the person in the comments suggested, I'm interested in things like copper. Lithium is interesting. Uranium is very interesting. But I mean, you know, one of the things I want to avoid doing is trying to overthink it. You know, I have, you know, investments in various places, and by and large, I'm happy with them. You know, my altcoins are down, but you know, the altcoin positions I hold are in projects that I have long-term faith in. I hold BTC, I hold, you know, Bitcoin. So, you know, okay, I think you're right. Bitcoin is going to struggle this year, but do I want to overthink it and start moving out of Bitcoin? I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think, you know, there are times I think when the best thing to do may be very little or nothing. That said, there are lots of interesting opportunities out there in terms of stocks. You know, maybe AI stocks are a bit overheated and we're a bit late to the likes of Nvidia and stuff. But I mean, for instance, defense stocks are pretty interesting given the world that we're moving increasingly into. What about the AI sort of beta plays? You know, I think someone pointed out recently that things like SanDisk, you know, SanDisk, which is basically storage, I think the price of that has gone absolutely bananas recently because, you know, okay, all this data that's being produced, it's got to be stored. Even things like water, you know, for cooling these data centers, and you know, just as you know, being really important for life. So I think there are potentially interesting beta plays on the whole AI narrative. Another one that I'm very interested in is ASML, which is I think it's a Dutch company, and it makes lithography machines, which are the machines that basically make the silicon chips. And ASML basically has a monopoly on that market. So, you know, I think its stock has gone up a lot over the last year or so. But, you know, there are plenty of interesting opportunities out there. But I don't want to, you know, like I say, I don't want to overthink it too much. Like, I think caution and defensiveness may be sort of a big part of my strategy this year.
Who was it that mentioned Nvidia earlier?
I might admit, I mentioned Nvidia in passing.
I thought I was just looking. It kind of made me want to look at this chart. This is the gold chart divided by Nvidia. What's crazy is just how much gold feels euphoric right now. But against Nvidia, you would have no clue it's doing anything. Like, I mean, isn't this just an insane chart? Like since 2012, gold, despite the rally, is still down 99.5% against Nvidia. Like that's an insane, like you know, fact. Yeah.
It's amazing, but it's not surprising. And I mean, if you just, I don't know how much you guys have been playing around with AI, and if you've heard about this thing like Claude bot and things that are going on behind the scenes, like everything is accelerating rapidly. So to get to that point, what do you need? You need Nvidia, you need silver, you need copper, you need all those things. So like, I'm not surprised this is, you know, taking off this much. It just in 2022 when it came out. And we can just see like there's an extrapolation between how much electricity is going to be used and the kind of jobs for programmers are dropping like crazy. It makes sense, especially to use AI.
Yeah. And it's not difficult to understand, is it? Like, you know, this is something that Bitcoin, I think, has struggled with in the past, and altcoins continue to struggle with. You know, what's the case? What are you investing in? People want to invest in things that they can understand. And if you say to someone, well, Nvidia basically makes the chips that make ChatGPT possible, you're like, well, okay, you don't need to be an economist to understand the investment thesis there. It's the same with gold, I guess, as well. So, yeah, they've been a no-brainer for most people.
Yeah,
I agree.
Rob, did you want to take that question too?
Not really.
Okay.
Hey, but I do have a question because, well, okay, so I'm just going to go Bitcoin, real estate. I'm going to go Nvidia, Tesla, and Google. But I have a question for Ben because 2 weeks ago on my channel, and this kind of went past me until I looked in the comment section. Someone said they were like surprised. They're like, "Hey, Ben just said that he's now down to 30% Bitcoin in his portfolio." So my question is this, Ben. So when did you start selling off Bitcoin, and what are you investing into now, and what's the plan for 2026? Same question.
I mean, Bitcoin's a lot less than 30% of my portfolio. What I meant was I sold off like 70% of the Bitcoin that I had crypto is a really small percentage of my portfolio. But it always is. I mean, it's always like, I don't know, like 15, 20% total. And yeah, I mean, I honestly, I pivoted a lot into back in Q4, kind of like late October, kind of through November timeframe. I think the reason was because like I was just looking at some of these charts on the cycle length and being like, yeah, like what if it's not different this time? I'm still keeping part of it because I'm like, all right, what are the chances that the super cycle guys are right? And I'm like, okay, maybe there's like a 20 to 30% chance that they're right. So if there's a 20 to 30% chance that they're right, then I want to acknowledge that by still keeping like 20 to 30% of the Bitcoin. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've been way more bullish on metals. I've also been a lot more bullish on I put some of it into uranium, some of it into palladium back then, some in gold, some in silver. My retirement account has been basically all silver for the most part for like the last, not all silver, but mostly silver for like the last like 18 months or so. And then the other thing that I bought, but I always buy this, is just index funds, right? Like just boring index funds. And mostly I've actually pivoted away. Like for the last 10 years, I've been overweight US funds and kind of more underweight international, but now I've flipped those. I'm now more overweight international and less in the US. And I think for a long time, I was always like, don't bet against the US. And I still believe that is true long term. But I do think that some of the trends are starting to shift. And I think that international for the last year or so, and will likely continue for a little while, I think international is just simply going to outperform the funds that are more so domestic here. It's not what I want to happen, but it is what is happening, and is what I think will continue to happen for a while. I just think there's a lot of uncertainty here in the States. There's tariffs. There's just no, like every single day, like I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm like, oh, are we getting Greenland? Like, I don't know. I don't know, and it just seems like other places right now are there's less uncertainty and there's just less concern. And with tariffs, I mean, I don't see how the U.S. consumers aren't just paying most of that. I feel like there's been studies done that shows that with tariffs, like U.S. consumers just end up paying the majority of it. And And also, I did this study where I went through like all the times in history that tariffs have been announced, like where like the United States implemented tariffs on other countries. It's always, every single time without fail, it has always been negative for the US. Even though it sounds good in the short term for people because it might bring jobs back over here, but it makes those companies less competitive globally, so that when the tariffs are gone, then those companies basically just no longer exist because they can't compete with the competition elsewhere. So I don't think that tariffs have ever been good for the US economy. I think what happens historically is they're good in the short term. They look good in the short term, but then like 2 or 3 years later, you like look back and like, wait, that wasn't actually a good thing. So I know that's not, I mean, I know that's kind of like getting into the political stuff, but I mean, just do the studies yourself. Like look at every time in history where tariffs were implemented, and then look what happened to the US economy a couple years later. It never was a good thing over the next 2 to 3 years. And so that's kind of why I'm leaning more towards international than domestic for right now. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'm not really sure what else you want, but
that's good, man. No, because I got a bunch of questions about that. So I know there's people in the comments section, but just be aware that yes, Ben still owns Bitcoin, a good hefty amount, a heck of a lot more than any gold bugs do. So it's a smart move. You know, you got to diversify.
Yeah, I'll probably get back into Bitcoin more so like end of year is my guess. Maybe this summer, but I would say mostly probably like kind of October or something might be the time to get back in. Rob, since we're on the topic of this stuff, I wanted to get your opinion about real estate because our good buddy over at the Fed, Jerome Powell, said that activity in the real estate sector has been, dropping off a lot. I know you're into real estate. I'm not really into real estate. What's going on in real estate?
Depends on where you're at. You know, like people will say, like depending on where you're at, people say, well, I don't know what Rob's talking about because there's massive inflation or massive numbers are going up for the price of houses or single family homes or apartment complexes in my place. And then other people will say, no, over here in name your city, name your state, it's actually going down. Where I'm at here in Puerto Rico, everything seems to just keep going up. And it's just pretty much how it is because it's a high touristy area. And so like for the prices, everything's they just kind of keep stable or going up. So like purchasing, those type of things kind of slowing down. And then another reason like that homes and new homes aren't being built and old homes aren't being renovated to be sold is because we got a shortage. We got a shortage of construction workers, plumbers, welders, and electricians. And it's a big thing. So I know Jerome Powell said that, hey, we can only do so much as far as rates, but we're not going to build the houses. Essentially what he said, and he's right. We need to build more houses. We need to get them out there. The problem is we have a shortage. I saw there was a stat that talked about how there was we need 600,000 electricians, welders, and plumbers to service military infrastructure and bases, and over the next 5 years, and we have a fraction of that. So as far as what are we, what's the reason why we can't build them so much? We don't have people to build them right now. And then for the last thing, I know this was just put out, I think a couple of days ago, the Case-Shiller home price index. If you just take a look at that, you can just take a look that it's pretty much roughly all-time highs still as the prices keep going up. But again, different cities have different type of prices. Like Austin, Texas, which is one of the largest, we were looking to buy a house over there. The prices have actually gone down, and which is odd because Austin, Texas was the hub for Texas for homes. But for me, real estate, it's just another what Ben talks about, international type of stocks. What Guy was talking about is his diversification. I just diversify into real estate. There's nothing. It's just something about owning your own place and not having to worry about it.
Right? They're not printing more land. They're not printing
more land. And then here's a great thing about, people will say, well, the taxes are all the taxes. In Puerto Rico, our real estate tax is 0.082%. No, excuse me, 0.8%, almost 1%. But the valuations for the houses are stuck at 1957 levels. And that's because of a bill that was passed in 1991. So if you're looking for a place to stay, I'm just telling you, Puerto Rico is the greatest place on the planet.
There's the alpha.
This person says, wow, Ben only has 15% of his money allocated to crypto and sold over 70. He played everyone. I feel like every video I've put out about crypto for the last 2 months has been very bearish. What else? What else? I mean, have you seen my thumbnails with like the huge bears on them? I feel like people have, I think the hardest thing, and I tweeted this out the other day, I think the hardest thing about having a following, and I'm sure you guys have experienced it as well, is that when you do pivot from something, right? When you go from being bullish to bearish, a lot of people have a hard time doing that as well, right? They will not pivot and then get mad at you for not, for pivoting. And I've actually seen this in the metal community as well. There's a lot of gold bugs that kind of like get mad at anyone who sells. They're like, you can't sell. It's like it's almost like a kind of like a cult type thing. Like, you can't sell. How dare you sell? The same thing has happened with Bitcoin in the past. Is it's okay for people to change their minds, right? Markets change. They have to be dynamic, and we have to adjust when they do.
That's a real relief to hear that it's not just crypto where you get tribal lunatics, where everyone's just partisan, and if you sell out of something, you're a traitor. It's good to know that lunacy pervades all aspects of modern investing. That's a real.
My Twitter feed for the last like 4 or 5 months has been like, I don't know, like half metals, half crypto. And I mean, the metal guys, I've been enjoying it. Don't get me wrong. Like it is euphoric for sure. But I mean, gosh, when anyone calls the top, like everyone turns on them.
Perfect.
Those metal guys are just, they put crypto guys in the shade.
Just don't marry an asset class, right? Make money when what's the term? Make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah. What do you think what does the average metal investor look like? I'm just imagining that they're all massive with huge beards and like, Viking helmets and stuff, but maybe that's just stereotyping, isn't it?
For the metal guys?
Yeah.
Well, that'll be us in 30 to 40 years.
Yeah.
We should just embrace it now. Like if that's who we're going to become, Yeah. That's our destiny.
Yeah, with an axe made of gold. we bought when it was a mere $5,500 per ounce.
Here's a good question. This is the one that gets me into trouble with the metal guys. Do you own any physical metals or just ETFs? I'm very guilty as charged of being more into the ETFs, but I will say that had I grown up 40 years ago, I would absolutely despise the idea of buying ETFs. It's like I more so was focused on Bitcoin for the last 10 to 15 years, and owning the private keys was the way to go. I was like, I don't want to buy the ETFs. But then with metals, I just go and buy the ETFs.
But you do hold some physical uranium, yeah? You've got some physical uranium in your garage.
Yeah, that kind of explains the hairline.
the growths, the skin. Yeah.
There's light coming onto me right now, not because I have a backlight. It's because the radioactive elements are just like really bright.
Yeah,
it's the uranium just glowing away there.
I'm telling your wife, don't touch that. That's our retirement.
Don't let that oxidize.
I feel like uranium is the only investment I own that I feel like I just am biased on. It's like the only thing that I like. I don't care. I like never care what the chart looks like. I'm just like, you know what? Uranium's bullish. Nuclear is the future. I'm not wrong. The market's wrong.
Of course, I guess. I think I was talking about this with Nick the other day, maybe on a live stream, but I guess the uranium could get seriously derailed if they announce a major breakthrough in nuclear fusion, right? Because fusion doesn't use uranium, if my memory serves me right. The inputs for fusion are pretty straightforward.
but there's not really a commercially viable fusion reactor, and sort of the joke in the nuclear community is that it's always 20 years away. So yeah, like I think there's some truth to what you said, but I think the time frame on that is probably pretty far out. It's like people worrying about quantum computing, how it would affect Bitcoin back in 2017, and it's now almost a decade later, and it still hasn't had any negative impacts. That doesn't mean it won't ever, but it just, I mean, think about that. You had a decade to make money, even though people were talking about it. It's not that it's not a risk. It's just that, is it really a short-term risk? And I don't really think commercially viable fusion is a short-term risk. But that's one of those things where if it happened, it probably, it might be bad for my uranium position for sure. But it might not be. Like there's scenarios where they develop it, but even then there's the NRC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, has all this like, you know, red tape around things. Like just because they figure it out doesn't mean, I mean, it can still take another 20 years to get it up and you know, actually doing something. And maybe if they figure it out, it just makes people more interested in nuclear. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but I also too, if it were a bearish thing for nuclear, if it were a bearish thing for uranium, I would be sad. But there would still be probably a bigger part of me that would be happy that we figured out fusion.
Yeah, like you take that hit to your portfolio for the good of humanity.
For the good of humanity, I will take that hit on my portfolio.
Yeah, you will take that huge loss to your portfolio and be okay.
Right. Like I'm not hoping they don't figure it out. Like I would love for them to figure it out. It just means it just means I need to go buy other materials. Maybe I need to go buy, like, I don't know, silicon carbide or some of these other things. Yeah, I don't know. All right, let's continue. I just saw a question that I wanted. Where was it? Yeah, so I'll say I heard it about 20 years away. I heard this in 1998. My fusion professor in grad school said that when he was in grad school in like the 50s or the 60s, he was really old when I was a grad student, but he said when he was a grad student back in like the 50s and 60s, he entered as a grad student and everyone was so bullish on fusion, and then like he became somewhat disenfranchised with it because it never happened, right? Like it was always this like unobtainable thing. Important question for the bear market. Are you guys coffee drinkers?
Yeah.
100%. Isn't everybody?
I'm not.
No kidding.
I despise the taste of coffee. Well,
you're a young guy. Wait till it's you know, getting in your 50s and you try to get up. You're like, damn it.
I've only had coffee. Yeah, I've only drunk a full cup of it like a few times in my life, and I never a pleasant experience. I also do not like tea or beer. I'm really weird.
But scotch.
I don't have a taste.
That single malt is great, and it really picks you up in the morning.
I've been to the ITC parties. Come on, Ben.
Yeah, and you see what I'm drinking? It's all like, I mean, I can handle an old fashioned. I can do that.
There you go.
I like those, but I don't. But I said beer. I didn't say I don't like. I mean, I can drink. Yeah, but I like if you hand me like a beer, I don't like those at all.
Mm-hmm. I only got into coffee relatively late in life when I was in my 20s, but I love it now. But I have to be very strict. I don't have any coffee after midday, because otherwise I'm told caffeine tends to stick around in your system for about 6 hours or so. So and I generally go to bed fairly early, not like six o'clock, but I'm not like a night owl, so I stop having coffee before midday. But other than that, I mean, Coin Bureau wouldn't exist if it wasn't for coffee, because I'm useless without it. So that's why we're here.
Yeah, but
we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we?
Yeah, we've been all over.
But I do think that like it's possible to get off of it, and then sometimes I feel like if you get off caffeine, you actually can have more energy. Because you're not reliant on it, so you're not having these like ups and downs. Because I would get to the point, because I would have caffeine, just not through coffee, and then I would get like headaches if I didn't have it, And then so I got to the point
the come down from it, weaning yourself off caffeine is supposed to be horrible. I just think you've got to have some pleasure in life. Like I've heard,
Yeah, but coffee's not one of those pleasures. Coffee's not one of those. Like, I'd rather go buy an altcoin than go drink a cup of coffee.
Wow, that's saying something.
Yeah,
That's saying something.
I'd rather go buy whatever the degens on Twitter are shilling me than go drink black coffee.
Oh my God. Someone's gonna make a coffee meme coin then.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, coffee futures, because I mean the price of coffee has gone up quite a lot recently. I think there was a bad harvest last year, maybe the year before. So the coffee's actually gotten more expensive. I think maybe coffee.
I'm not bearish on it. I'm not bearish on coffee. I just feel like I feel like the market.
You just don't want to drink your bags.
It's like everyone else is wrong.
Drink your bag. Nice one. You don't want to drink your tea bags.
Yeah.
Did we have any more questions? I think there might have been one more. Oh, Guy, do you have any thoughts about what Powell had to say at FOMC, or is it just more of the same stuff?
It was kind of more of the same, really. I mean, I thought it was interesting that he sort of he kind of danced around any questions about his future. I think. I mean, he didn't, as I recall, he didn't really offer any guidance around the next cut or anything like that. So. But I think it's going to be interesting watching him and kind of Trump. It seems like he's pretty determined to stick around in spite of Trump, because obviously his term as chair ends in May, but he'll still be on the board, and I get the impression he's got absolutely no intention of leaving the board. So he could be a thorn in Trump's side for a while, yeah.
But even if he's replaced, which he will be, I'm sure, like the person replacing him doesn't control the rest of the board,
Yeah.
Like,
right.
I think if you look at the Fed Watch tool, they're not, like, even though Powell is going to be replaced in May, the market is still only expecting like 1 or 2 rate cuts for the rest of the year. So yeah,
it's I mean, this was a pretty, I think I got the impression he was pretty hawkish, a hawkish pause. I've seen a lot of people call it.
Someone says that it's believed that the Enlightenment of Europe was kicked off by the introduction of tea into the continent.
Coffee houses were big in England. I think it became big in England in maybe the 16th century or something, and they were the sort of intellectual and creative hubs. So the great thinkers of the age would congregate in coffee houses. And yeah, I have read stuff that says, it did kind of give people a pep to. It did kind of fuel the Enlightenment in some senses. So yeah, it's magic stuff, Ben. Just think what you could achieve if you only had a morning coffee.
I guess we'll never know.
We'll
never know.
You know what? I probably wouldn't be arguing with degens on Twitter. It's probably what it would be.
Well, we don't want to change that, do we? Coffee dominance, exactly.
Every time I do it, I'm like, I should not have done that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if you were having coffee, it would be even worse. You'd just be up to all hours arguing with them. So
Ben,
you stay off you stick to the old fashions, Ben.
Someone says bear market, or wait. No, it keeps moving. Bear market indicator, 20-minute coffee talk.
Yeah. If anybody's going to clip a piece of this NFA live, it's going to be that. It's going to be enlightenment, tea, and coffee dominance. Like, what are these guys talking?
Oh, what else are we going to talk about?
Yeah, we're going to talk about how Bitcoin's a laggard. That's pretty much it.
We talked about gold, silver. We talked about copper. We talked about uranium, coffee. Whiskey got a mention.
Yeah.
We're talking about real assets here.
Those are real assets, yeah.
We're not talking about froth. We're talking about real stuff. It's like, we're not talking about practice.
Yeah. Look, as far as that, in reply to that commenter, in reply to @BTC Emir, I could do a lot more than 20 minutes on coffee. And it's been a while since my last coffee, obviously, because it's long. It's almost 7 p.m. here. But
I saw a funny tweet like back in February, March, when Ethereum was crashing, when Trump was announcing tariffs on like aluminum, and someone was like, I guess Ethereum is made of aluminum. And then But then recently I saw like the reverse tweet, and they're like, "Why can't Ethereum be made of aluminum?"
Everybody's thinking that's an alt right now. Why can't I be in metals?
Yeah. All right. Well, look, to be self-aware, we are getting very euphoric in metals, so probably will be some pullback sometime relatively soon. I mean, this stuff can't go on forever, but it's certainly gone on longer than most people thought it would. We're at the top of the hour almost. Why don't we go ahead and wrap this up? Make sure you guys subscribe to Rob and Guy. Links to their channels are down in the description below. Next week, we will be on Rob's channel. And I think that's all we have, right? Is there anything else?
Nope. That's it.
All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
See you, everyone.
Bye, guys.